Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fourth branch program, the place for common sense. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. This is segment one of the program in which we will read the Mueller report. At least we will continue to read the Mueller report. I am MD and welcome once again to the fourth branch. If you're here for the first time, thank you for stopping by. If you have been before, well, I am excited that you continue to contribute to the advancement of this program. For the first, the newcomers, the fourth branch program is a forum in which we take looks at legislation, social issues, political issues, and we analyze those through the prism of common sense. We are not associated with a political party. That doesn't mean we are not biased. We try to keep our bias in check. But the ultimate goal is to perfect the union. What that means is it doesn't matter whether it's Democrat or Republican. If what you're doing is wrong, we will point it out. And by wrong, we don't mean just because we do not agree with it. We mean because it may be bad for the country. In other words, a policy may not be popular, but it still may be good for the country, in which case you will not hear anything being said here on the fourth branch. We will try to explain it, and we will try to dissect the detail behind it. On the other hand, if what legislators are doing, the policymakers are doing, are going to be bad for the country, or at the very least for a large group, a large sector of the population, we will take it apart here on the branch and we'll tell you why it is bad. In other words, this program is not suitable for everyone, which you might see on the announcement that we sent to you. And the reason we say it's not suitable for all audiences is not because it's an X-rated program, but rather because it requires people who are patriots, people who have a certain degree of common sense, people who are more concerned about the state of affairs in the country instead of their own political party, or instead of their own selfish interests. In other words, you're not going to agree with everything we say here, especially if you're not a patriot, especially if your interest lies with a political party and lies with your own selfish interests. So beware. It's not a program to make you feel good. Fox is already doing that. If you want someplace where individuals are telling you things that make you feel good, are telling you things that corroborate your beliefs and make you feel like you belong, then definitely the fourth branch is not the program for you. This is not a popularity contest, but rather a forum in which we try to achieve a more noble cause, which is to perfect the union. We know it's a tall order. We know it's a difficult task. However, we do believe it's worth it. When we began this program, we started with our basis, a principle by George Washington, which says, it is far better to be alone than to be in bad company. And you may have seen in many occasions where we say, be part of the solution or move out of the way. In other words, if you cannot be part of the solution, you are part of the problem. So we hope that you are a patriot. We hope that you can help advance the affairs of the country, not your own political party. As such, we only count on those who feel that way, who have the same goal, the same objective as we here at the fourth branch program. Stay tuned as we will do a little bit of arrangement to start with the reading of the Mueller report. Once again, I am MD, and this is the fourth branch program, the place for common sense. Live from New York City, at the top of the hour, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the fourth branch presents discussion, debates, commentary on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as abortion, homosexuality, war on blacks. Are Republicans dumber than Democrats? Information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you suffer. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome, Common Sense. We begin today by asking the question, are you a patriot? Now, I don't ask the question for the sake of asking. And by that question, I don't mean, are you an American? I mean, are you a patriot? It is necessary because in order to advance the affairs of the country, only patriots can see to it that there are sacrifices to be made in order to achieve that. Now, most since the inauguration of Donald Trump seems to equate being a patriot as someone who stands during the national anthem, put his or her hand on the chest, and that definitely would make the individual, according to their definition, a patriot. Well, it is not. A patriot is an individual who would make sacrifice, sometimes his or her own life, in order to advance a much noble cause for his or her country. So let alone sacrifice a political party to do so. Now, as you might have already imagined, since the presidency of Donald Trump, if you go to Washington, and if you are a patriot, you would notice that this small name or word, which represent the foundation of our country, doesn't exist. The very branch, the legislative branch, which was at that time in the hands of the Republican, whose primary job, forget about being a patriot, the primary job of the legislative branch is to exercise oversight on the executive branch. In other words, members of Congress and the Senate, that's what the Constitution says. I didn't say that. The primary job of the legislators in Washington, whether you're Democrat or Republican, is to exercise oversight on the executive branch. Put differently, the Republicans in Washington do not do that, do not abide by the Constitution. Now, if you are a Republican, you don't care because that sounds like music to your ears because it benefits you, at least what you construe as benefits. But if you are a Democrat, you are outraged because, well, first of all, you know that this is the job, the primary job of the legislative branch. But most importantly, you know that the individual in the Oval Office ought to be held accountable. That's outrage any patriot. So the question is, are you a patriot? Now, before I came to present this program, I had a conversation with one of my fellow Republican, and he asked the question this way: why would Donald Trump be impeached? Why? What did he do wrong? Now, this is nothing new, because this is a conversation I had many times with many of my fellow Republicans. But after the release of the Mueller report, even skeptic Republicans now start seeing clearly that the office of the presidency has been completely devalued, because it is now, without any argument, irrefutable, that the president of the United States is a criminal. Now, it's not that we didn't know that before. We did. Michael Cohen is currently sitting in jail for doing exactly what he did on behalf of Donald Trump, per his request. So we already know Donald Trump is a criminal. But the individual who was tasked to look into what the greatest affront to our country, the meddling in our internal affairs by a foreign entity, now concluded his investigation and found staggering collaboration between the Trump team and that enemy, Russia. Genius. You don't have to know anything about politics. You simply ought to be a patriot to realize that this is not acceptable at any level. So the question the individual asked, what did Donald Trump do wrong, seems at best hypocritical. You may recall that Bill Clinton was impeached for having lied because of an affair he had with an intern. Now this is far worse than what Clinton was impeached for. And the individual asked the question, what did Donald Trump do? Donald had an affair. That's personal. Donald Trump exposed the United States of America to a foreign government. It jeopardized our national security. And I still have, as of date, fellow Republican asking the question, what did Donald Trump do? A better question is, are you a patriot? If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged. Because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican. Because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point, the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. What you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give or who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. So if you are a patriot, let's continue with the reading of the Mueller report. We left off last week, reading volume 1, and we're still in volume 1. The next item in the reading is conduct of the meeting, and that meeting we're referring to is the Trump Tower meeting. Trump Jr., Manafort, Kushner participated on the Trump side, while Kaveladze, Samokonov, Amidst, and Goldstone attended with Veselnitskaya. The office spoke to every participant except Veselnitskaya and Trump Jr., the latter of whom declined to be voluntarily interviewed by the office. The meeting lasted approximately 20 minutes. Recall that Trump Jr. invited Veselnitskaya to begin but did not say anything about the subject of the meeting. Participants agreed that Veselnitskaya stated that the Zif brothers had broken Russian laws and had donated the profit to the DNC or the Clinton campaign. She asserted that the Zif brothers had engaged in tax evasion and money laundering in both the United States and Russia. The remaining part of this sentence has been redacted grand jury. According to Amidst, Trump Jr. asked follow-up questions about how the alleged payment could be tied specifically to the Clinton campaign, but Veselnitskaya indicated that she could not trace the money once it entered the US. Kaveladze similarly recalled that Trump Jr. asked what they have on Clinton, and Kushner became aggravated and asked, quote, "What are we doing here?" Unquote. Amidst then spoke about U.S. sanctions imposed on the Magnitsky Act and Russia's response prohibiting U.S. adoption of Russian children. Several participants recalled that Trump Jr. commented that Trump is a private citizen, and there was nothing they could do at that time. Trump Jr. also said that they could revisit the issue if and when they were in government. Note that Manafort took on his phone reflect the general flow of the conversation, although not all of its detail. At some point in the meeting, Kushner sent an iMessage to Manafort stating, quote, "waste of time," followed immediately by 2 separate emails to assistants at Kushner company requesting they called him to give him an excuse to leave. Samokonov recalled that Kushner departed the meeting before it concluded. Veselnitskaya recalled the same when interviewed by the press in July of 2017. Veselnitskaya press interview and written statement to Congress differ materially from other accounts. In a July 2017 press interview, Veselnitskaya claimed that she has no connection to the Russian government and had not referred to any derogatory information concerning the Clinton campaign when she met with Trump campaign officials. Veselnitskaya November 2017 written submission to the Senate Judiciary Committee stated that the June 9th meeting was not to connect with, quote, the Trump campaign, but rather to have, quote, a private meeting with Donald Trump Jr., a friend of my good acquaintance son, on the matter of assisting me or my colleagues in informing the Congress member as to the criminal nature of manipulation and interference with the legislative activities of the U.S. Congress, end of quote. In other words, Veselnitskaya claimed that her focus was on Congress and not the campaign. No witness, however, recalled any reference to Congress during the meeting. Veselnitskaya also maintained that she, quote, attended the meeting as a lawyer of Denise Katsev, end of quote, the previously mentioned owner of Prevezon Holding, but she did not, quote, introduce herself in this capacity, end of quote. In a July 2017 television interview, Trump Jr. stated that while he had no way to gauge the reliability, credibility, or accuracy of what Goldstone had stated was the purpose of the meeting, if, quote, someone has information, maybe this is something, I should hear them out, end of quote. Trump Jr. further stated in September 2017 congressional testimony that he thought he should, quote, listen to Rob and his colleagues had to say, end of quote. Depending on that, if any information was provided, Trump Jr. stated he could then, quote, consult with counsel to make an informed decision as to whether to give it any further consideration, end of quote. After the June 9th meeting concluded, Goldstone apologized to Trump Jr. According to Goldstone, he told Trump Jr. whatever he did was part of it was redacted grand jury, and told Emin Agalarov in a phone call that the meeting was about adoption. The remaining part of that sentence has been redacted. Aras Agalarov asked Kaveladze to report in after the meeting, but before Kaveladze could call, Aras Agalarov called him. With Veselnitskaya next to him, Kaveladze reported that the meeting had gone well, but he later told Aras Agalarov that the meeting about the Magnitsky Act had been a waste of time because it was not with lawyers and they were, quote, preaching to the wrong crowd, end of quote. Post-June 9 events. Veselnitskaya and Aras Agalarov made at least 2 unsuccessful attempts after the election to meet with Trump representatives to convey similar information about Browder and the Magnitsky Act. On November 23, 2016, Kaveladze emailed Goldstone about setting up another meeting with T people, T meaning Trump, end of quote, and sent a document bearing allegations similar to those conveyed on June 9th. Kaveladze followed up with Goldstone stating that, quote, A, which Goldstone understood to mean Aras Agalarov, called to ask about the meeting. Goldstone emailed the document to Rona Grass saying that, quote, Aras Agalarov has asked me to pass on this document in hope it can be passed on to the appropriate team. If needed, a lawyer representing the case is in New York currently and happy to meet with any member of his transition team, end of quote. According to Goldstone, around January 2017, Kaveladze contacted him again to set up another meeting, but Goldstone did not make the request. The investigation did not identify evidence of the transition team following up. Participants in the June 9, 2016 meeting began receiving inquiries from attorneys representing the Trump Organization starting in approximately June of 2017. On approximately June 2nd, 2017, Goldstone spoke with Alan Gordon, General Counsel of the Trump Organization, about his participation in the June 9th meeting. The same day, Goldstone emailed Veselnitskaya's name to Gordon, presenting her as the, quote, woman who was the attorney who spoke at the meeting from Moscow, end of quote. Later in June 2017, Goldstone participated in a lengthier call with Gordon and Alan Futerfas, outside counsel for the Trump Organization, in parentheses, and subsequently personal counsel for Trump Jr. On June 27, 2017, Goldstone emailed Emin Agalarov with the subject, quote, Trump attorneys, end of quote, and stated that he was, quote, interviewed by attorneys, end of quote, about the June 9th meeting who were, quote, concerned because Don Jr. to official from Russia, which he has already denied meeting, end of quote. Goldstone stressed that he, quote, did say at the time this was an awful idea and a terrible meeting, end of quote. Emin Agalarov sent a screenshot of the message to Kaveladze. The June 9 meeting became public in July 2017. In a July 9, 2017 text message to Emin Agalarov, Goldstone wrote, I made sure I kept you and your father out of this story. And, quote, if contacted, I can do a dance and keep you out of it, quote. Goldstone added, quote, FBI now investigating, end of quote, and, quote, I hope this favor was worth for your dad and it could blow up, end of quote. 2017, Emin Agalarov complained to Kaveladze that his father has, quote, never listened to him and that their relationship with Mr. T has been thrown down the drain, end of quote. The next month, Goldstone commented to Emin Agalarov about the volume of publicity that the June 9th meeting had generated, stating that his, quote, reputation was basically destroyed by this dumb meeting which your father insisted on, even though Ike and me told him would be bad news not to do it. Goldstone added, I'm not able to respond out of courtesy to you and your father, so am painted as some mysterious link to Putin, end of quote. After public reporting on June 9th meeting began, representatives from the organization again reached out to participants. On July 10, 2017, Futrofast sent Goldstone an email with a proposed statement for Goldstone to issue, which read, as the person who arranged the meeting, I can definitively state that the statement I have read by Donald Trump Jr. are 100% accurate. The meeting was a complete waste of time and Don was never told Ms. Veselnitskaya's name prior to the meeting. Ms. Veselnitskaya mostly talked about the Magnitsky Act and Russian adoption laws, and the meeting lasted 20 to 30 minutes at the most. There was never any follow-up and nothing ever came of the meeting, end of quote. The first part of what I'm about to read has been redacted grand jury. The statement drafted by Trump organization representative was redacted as grand jury. He proposed a different statement asserting that he had been asked, quote, by his client in Moscow, Emin Agalarov, to facilitate a meeting between a Russian attorney, Natalia Veselnitskaya, and Donald Trump Jr. The lawyer had apparently stated that she had some information regarding funding to the DNC from Russia, which she believed Mr. Trump Jr. might find interesting, end of quote. Never released either statement. On the Russian end, there were also communication about what participants should say about the June 9th meeting. Specifically, the organization that hired Samokonov, an anti-Magnitsky Act group controlled by Veselnitskaya, and the owner of Preveson offered to pay $90,000 of Samokonov's legal fees. At Veselnitskaya request, the organization sent Samoukhanov a transcript of a Veselnitskaya press interview, and Samoukhanov understood that the organization would pay his legal fees only if he made a statement consistent with Veselnitskaya. Samoukhanov declined, telling the office that he did not want to perjure himself. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then that the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give or who would make sacrifice of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. The individual who conveyed Veselnitskaya the request to Samoukhanov stated that he did not expressly condition payment on following Veselnitskaya answers, but in hindsight recognized that by sending the transcript, Samoukhanov could have interpreted the offer of assistance to be conditioned on his not contradicting Veselnitskaya's account. Volume 2, Section 2.g. Infra discusses interaction between President Trump, Trump Jr., and others in June and July 2017 regarding the June meeting. Events at the Republican National Convention. Trump campaign official met with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak during the week of the Republican National Convention. The evidence indicates that those interactions were brief and non-substantive. During platform committee meeting immediately before the convention, J.D. Gordon, a senior campaign advisor on policy and national security, diluted a proposed amendment to the Republican Party platform expressing support for providing lethal assistance to Ukraine in response to Russian aggression. Gordon requested that platform committee personnel revise the proposed amendment to state that only, quote, appropriate assistance be provided to Ukraine. The original sponsor of the lethal assistance amendment stated that Gordon told her, the sponsor, that he was on the phone with candidate Trump in connection with his request to dilute the language. Gordon denied making a statement to the sponsor, although he acknowledged it was possible. He mentioned having previously spoken to the candidate about the subject matter. The investigation did not establish that Gordon spoke to or was directed by the candidate to make that proposal. Gordon said that he sought the change because he believed the proposed language was inconsistent with Trump's position to Ukraine. Ambassador Kislyak encounters with Senator Sessions and J.D. Gordon on the week of the RNC. That's Republican National Convention. In July 2016, Senator Sessions and Gordon spoke at the Global Partners in Diplomacy event, a conference co-sponsored by the State Department and the Heritage Foundation held in Cleveland, Ohio, the same week as the Republican National Convention. Approximately 80 foreign ambassadors to the United States, including Kislyak, were invited to the conference. On July 28, Gordon and Sessions delivered their speeches at the conference. In his speech, Gordon stated in pertinent part that the United States should have better relations with Russia. During Sessions' speech, he took questions from the audience, one of which may have been asked by Kislyak. When the speech is concluded, several ambassadors lined up to the speakers. Gordon shook hands with Kislyak and reiterated that he had met what he said in the speech about improving U.S.-Russia relations. Sessions separately spoke with between 6 and 12 ambassadors, including Kislyak. Although Sessions stated during the interviews with the office that he had no specific recollection of what he discussed with Kislyak, he believed that the two spoke for only a few minutes and that they would have exchanged pleasantries and said something about U.S.-Russia relations. Later that evening, Gordon attended a reception as part of the conference. Gordon ran into Kislyak as the two prepared plates of food and they decided to sit at the same table to eat. They were joined at that table by the ambassador from Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan and by Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. As they ate, Gordon and Kislyak talked for what Gordon estimated to have been 3 to 5 minutes, during which Gordon again mentioned that he meant what he said in his speech about improving U.S.-Russia relations. Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. Media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question? Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical. Our very freedom depends on it. I thank you for spending the time with me. I hope that was of some use to you. If not, you already know what to do. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion. Let us know how to improve what we're doing. Because as mentioned many times here before, this is a program that's not going away. Because the goal is to perfect the union. And until we achieve such objective, we are going to continue doing what we are doing. So if you are a patriot, you might as well help make it better. If you also have some other topic you would like us to talk about, to debate here, let us know. We will research the topic and we will debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Join us again in a couple of hours in which we will talk about some other more important topic that are making the news or that are of great importance to our nation. I hope in the meantime you have a wonderful day or evening, whichever it happened to be. I am MD for the Fourth Branch program. Good day. An update through the prism of common sense. Join us again at the top of the hour. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Send us comments, criticisms, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you for watching. See you in just a bit. The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.